The Mississippi State Bulldogs are coming into Neville Arena, and the Auburn Tigers will have to do it without star Johni Broome. Let's take a look at this big matchup on this live edition of the Uptempo podcast. Yes, sir. Good evening, Auburn family. Good evening, Uptempo gang. Unusual Monday night start for us due to the basketball game tipping off at 6 o'clock tomorrow. We figured y'all weren't going to be watching us live at 7 o'clock talking about basketball when the basketball's on. Big matchup, man. Mississippi State coming into Neville, ranked. They're playing some good ball like much of the SEC is, but our Auburn Tigers took a big injury to National Player of the Year favorite Johni Broome. So this matchup just got a little bit tougher. It was already going to be tough. As always, I got my guy Blake Langdon here doing the damn thing. But we got some special guests tonight with us. Blake, why don't you introduce the people?
Yeah, man. The My Dogs Are Barking podcast. We got Landon and Austin with us here tonight. Fellas, we appreciate you coming on. I know it was last second notice, but I reached out to my guy, the Duty Noble Twitter page, and I said, hey, give me a podcast from Mississippi State that I need to reach out to and get on the show. And voila, here we are, boys. And I appreciate y'all getting back to me, and we're just so excited to have you on. I told Dustin, I said, hey, let's do a crossover, man. Like, let's get these Mississippi State guys in here, and let's talk about two really good basketball teams tonight. So how are you guys doing? And let us know a little bit about your podcast.
Yeah, man. Well, hey, we're thankful to be here with you guys. And I'll say this: if there's anything I can say about our podcast, it's that we need to take some lessons from the Uptempo podcast on the intro. Man, that got me fired up. I feel like I'm about to go suit up and get ready to go. But now I'm Landon, and started this podcast about a year and a half ago. Coming up on 2 years now. The other young man I will let introduce himself.
Yeah, so we were actually brothers. My name is Austin. A lot of people don't believe we're brothers, but we actually are. But yeah, thank y'all guys so much for letting us come on. This is not our usual thing, so this is really fun. We were talking about it yesterday that we were really looking forward to this and getting to talk Auburn hoops. This is gonna be a good time.
Hey, fellas, like I said, glad to have you here. Dustin, I guess we can go ahead and kick this thing off right into Mississippi State basketball. Fellas, I want to point out first, and I want to talk about Chris Jans, and I want to hear what both of you have to say about this man, because pulling him away from New Mexico State, where he really built that program and like had them soaring, and you getting to Starkville, and he basically resurrected your basketball program, and he brought it to new heights where you've had back-to-back 20 win seasons. You've had back-to-back trips to the NCAA tournament, and you've played pretty well in those games. I mean, that round of 4 game 2 years ago was a heartbreaker. You know, I mean, it was just, he got it done so quickly. How is that fan base in Starkville feeling about Chris Jans and this team this year? I mean, you guys are off to a hot start, lost a close one to Kentucky the other night. I mean, the vibes are high, man.
Yeah, getting a guy like Chris Jans was exciting because at the time he was hired, and obviously still continues to today, he's top 5 in winning percentage of any active coach in the NCAA. He's won a lot of games. Now, it's not been at the kind of the tier level of the SEC, but he, from an early time, even that team from 2 years ago, Chris Jans' first team had out of all, how many college basketball teams are there? 330, just an ungodly amount of teams, right? Your local community college might be one of the teams. There's so many. And out of all those teams, Mississippi State had the lowest 3-point percentage of all of those teams. And Chris Jans still got them into the tournament with that talent that was kind of lacking. He's a really great coach. A lot of the times, how you can gauge if someone is great is if they can do a lot with a little. And Chris Jans has proved to do that. And now it looks like he's got a kind of a supporting cast around in terms of players and playmakers that give the team confidence. Austin, talk a little bit about who some of those guys are that Jans has kind of developed that you talk about during our show.
Yeah, obviously, starting point guard Josh Hubbard, he was committed to Ole Miss, and then flip to Mississippi State. So that was huge for us, and obviously had an amazing freshman year last year. Right now, he's obviously going into a sophomore year. And so the last 2 years, we've gotten a lot of transfers, obviously, because, just the talent was very lacking, was not SEC caliber. So we were getting the most out of these like transfers that were from these really, honestly, no name schools, or if they were from a big name school, they didn't really do anything. And Jan's got their full potential, and it was very fun to watch. And we were just hard nosed, really gritty. Wasn't very good offensively, but we could guard, we could play some defense. And this year, getting Riley Kugel from Florida, he was kind of a bigger name. And right now, a lot of guys, RJ Melendez, a lot of guys on this team this year that can score the ball and obviously defend at a high level. It's been a lot of fun to watch this season because the offense has really got clicking this year. So just in year 3 in Chris Jans, it's going to be really good to see how we can do an SEC play.
Fellas, I gotta ask you about one guy that I am just over the top impressed with every time I watch Mississippi State. Cam Matthews. I just feel like he's a guy, and I feel like he brings it for y'all each and every single night. Can you talk a little bit about him and what he brings to this team? I feel like he's the leader for y'all, man. Like, I feel like he's that guy where, that team turns to when you need a stop or a bucket. He's that guy that Chris Jan says, hey, this is your team. What does he mean to this Mississippi State basketball team?
Yeah, Chris Jan said it in the post-game press conference after Pitt. Cam Matthews is the identity of this team. And Cam's not going to be, if you're not familiar with Mississippi State, he's not like a guy who's your spot-up shooter. He barely shoots any threes at all. Outside of Kentucky, they just left him open. He happened to hit 2. He is just a massive human being that if he has the ball in his hand, he's going downhill. And whenever he's on defense, he's just tenacious. He had 6 steals versus Kentucky the other night. He averages 3 steals a game. And if you watch the games last year with Auburn and Mississippi State, it was always very physical, especially with Cam Matthews and might be Johni Broome or someone else. It was a very physical matchup, and I expect the same thing on Tuesday night.
What I can say about Cam Matthews is he's that type of guy, in a couple years when his playing days are done, he's the kind of guy like he shouldn't have to pay for a meal when he comes to Starkville. He is he's like a hometown. Everybody loves him in Starkville. He's up there with like the Mississippi State greats when it comes to just being a legend. We love him, and like Landon said, he plays so hard with every single second he's on the court. He's going to play so hard. He can grab the rebound, take it coast to coast for a layup. He has that Derrick Henry kind of, if Derrick Henry's running at you, you kind of move out of the way. So Cam Matthews is the exact same way, just an absolute freight train of a human being. He's a beast, and it's going to be a lot of talent on that Auburn team. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see what he can do defensively against the Auburn Tigers.
And I'll say just real quick, I mentioned it a little bit beforehand, but Auburn is the team I would say played him like matched his physicality.
Mm-hmm.
Other teams that are just not used to the sheer size, they're not used to dealing with a guy that big or that's that physical on both ends of the floor. But Auburn is a team that obviously is very well coached, but they also have the personnel to be able to match up against a Cam Matthews. But not every other team can. Even you looked at Kentucky, who's a top 5 team, can shoot the lights out, and they did versus Mississippi State. Got the win 95-90 in Starkville the other night. But physically, they had no answer for someone to guard him or whenever he was guarding someone else. I think Auburn's a little bit of a different story typically, but with Broome out, that's kind of a question of who will kind of replace and be able to guard him.
Good stuff, fellas. Dustin, I know you got some stuff.
Well, I'm sitting over here thinking, I'm listening to Landon talk, and I hear him talking about this shootout the other night that they were able to pull out, 90-point shootout. So you can score the points if you need to. And I'm thinking, without Johni, Landon, you mentioned how physical last year's matchups were. I got to think at Neville, without Johni Broome down low, Bruce Pearl probably going to pressure, try to speed the game up, create turnovers, hit a bunch of threes, and just let that home crowd kind of run Mississippi State off the floor type thing. That kind of has to be the strategy, I would assume, without Johni out there. If Auburn goes that route, if DeHaad's hitting a couple threes, if Miles Kelly, Denver Jones hit a couple of threes, you guys confident Mississippi State's going to be able to keep up with that pace on the road?
Yeah, that's the question. Really, Mississippi State has not had to worry about that type of thing. Mississippi State went on the road at Memphis, ended up beating Memphis by 13. but Memphis was not able to shoot the ball the way that Auburn can shoot it. And a game in Memphis is different than a game down in Auburn. You guys know that all too well. So that's really a question mark. State went on the road at Vanderbilt, but it's not a crazy hostile environment at Vanderbilt, even though they got the win there. It will be a question, almost a kind of a test for where State will go thus far, being able to be there. But you're right. Auburn is they will more than likely try to get State to play their game, and Kentucky was effective with that. Kentucky was able to make Mississippi State play their game instead of vice versa. But the good news for Mississippi State is, even with those things, State's two best players, I guess Cam Matthews is probably in that top two, but two of the three players from Mississippi State that are their best ones did not play well. Josh Hubbard did not shoot the ball well at all, and Riley Kugel was injured most of the game. And yet they still only fell by 5 points. So that's kind of the thing you wonder, is how will they be able to answer it on the road? I look at it as a question mark. Austin, do you?
Yeah, I agree. I think the X factor for this this big game is the 3-point shot. I mean, and just watching that Kentucky game, Mississippi State did not have an answer for it, and our shots weren't falling. We were taking a whole lot of threes, making a couple, but most of them were not falling. And man, Kentucky was shooting it out of like lights out. They were unbelievable. So I think that's the X factor, because I know Auburn can potentially, light up that scoreboard with 3-pointers. So if we have no answer for that, we are not winning that game.
I hear you. So I want to ask a bigger picture question, right? Year 3, Chris Jans, y'all obviously got a good ball club. It's a tough SEC, though. Just kind of what are the expectations in Starkville? Like, what's the ceiling? What's the floor kind of thing? What are you guys looking at here as March comes around?
Austin, I'll let you answer that one.
Yeah, it's kind of tough to see, because if you look at the schedule for every single SEC team, there's just so much. The SEC is so loaded. It's unbelievably loaded. Every single night you could win or lose. So, the high, right now I've seen us in the 2 seed, projections, stuff like that. But we just don't know. We haven't played Tennessee yet. We haven't played Florida. We haven't played y'all yet. So, we really don't know. Last year, I believe we were a 9 seed. And so obviously, we obviously want to make the tournament. I feel confident that we're going to make the tournament. So, hopefully we can get a much better seed. Last year we got paired up with Michigan State, and that Tom Izzo team was no joke, and so that was tough. So if we could get a really good seed, that would be. I know that's important to us, but honestly, when it comes to just winning these games, I think it's a coin flip with almost every single SEC team. It's so loaded.
It is loaded, y'all. It's probably. I know this is crazy to say, but the SEC is probably now the best basketball conference as well. It's arguable. Like we could go to the drawing board and put the teams down, but
the ACC is not as deep as they once were, especially compared to the SEC. I agree with you. Who else? Who else can you point to that's a second?
No,
Big 12's down a little bit.
Yeah, like the Big 12 is they got a couple good teams, but Kansas, they lost to Missouri. That's on their resume, and that's your big ticket right there. So I love what the SEC is about. I want to ask you guys about y'all's guard play. I know Auburn has had a breath of fresh air with Tahad Pettiford and just the coming of Denver Jones and what he has grown into, and the transfer of Miles Kelly to have a 2 guard that is 6'6" and can shoot the lights out of it. It has been really, really comforting to know that Auburn is slowly starting to get away from the 5'10" guards and what has kind of hampered us in years past. But what is Mississippi State's guard play like, and how do they match up against Auburn?
Yeah, well, the main starting point guard for the season, Kanye Clary, is out indefinitely. We'll see when he comes back. He certainly won't be back for Tuesday night. So it's going to run through Josh Hubbard. And Josh Hubbard is the all-time leading scorer in Mississippi high school history, but he's not a natural point guard. He's much more of a scorer, but he's had to take on the role of a point guard, and he's been pretty good. Assist ratio of at least 53-9, and 7 of those were in one game at Memphis. So he does not turn the ball over often. Much more of a shooter. The other guy is Claudel Harris, who's the transfer from Boston College. Those are kind of the 2 guys in the front, along with Riley Kugel, the transfer from Florida. But he's a little bit banged up. He's expected to play Tuesday night, but we'll see how it goes. those are kind of your three main guys. Hubbard can score, and a lot of people are familiar with Hubbard. Auburn did a good job game planning against him last season, and usually when people took Josh Hubbard away last season, there was no one else to go to. This year's a little bit different. State has several other guys who were able to kind of to play. Claudio Harris is shooting about 40% from 3-point range. He's been really good at giving about 11 to 12 a game. Kugel's averaging about 10 points a game as well. But you also have those are the guards. State also got a couple transfer portal guys in that can stretch the floor in terms of big men that they did not have that the past couple of years. But those are kind of the main guards to look to. But honestly, Hubbard, who is probably their best player, really has not put it all together. And I don't know, Austin, you think he can put it all together on the road in Auburn? I'm a little doubtful.
Yeah, I mean, last year we talked about just from guard play. I mean, last year was just Josh Hubbard or bust for the Bulldogs, and this year obviously we have a lot more depth coming in Starkville this year. So yeah, Claudio Harris is a guy. He plays a lot of minutes, but yeah, he's a spotty shooter. I mean, he could that game he could shoot 0 for 7 from the 3-point line. He could shoot 6 for 7. I mean, we just he's that kind of shooter. So you just never know what you're going to get. But I mean, Josh Hubbard. Yeah, I mean, we've been waiting. I've said this multiple times. I think this is the game Josh Hubbard is, he's due for a big game. I think this is it. But we just haven't seen that. And, just to talk how good Josh Hubbard is, I mean, people are talking about a sophomore slump, and he's still averaging 17 points this year. So, it's not like he's playing terrible by any means. He's still our top scorer. But yeah, he needs to step up, especially if we want to win big games like this.
I love it, fellas. Hey, I got one more for you, and then I know, Dustin, we can hop over here and get these guys some questions in the chat. What does Mississippi State have to do? Like, what is one thing that they have to do tomorrow night to win the game?
That's a great question. I think they cannot be tricked into kind of what we talked about earlier, into playing another team's game. And if Auburn comes out hot, if Auburn comes out and hits a couple of threes to start the game, even if they give up some on the other side of the floor, Mississippi State might be tempted to say, okay, now we're going to have to keep up with them. And that's just not Mississippi State's game. Again, even though they only lose to Kentucky by 5, but the field goal percentage is rough for Mississippi State. It's just their defensive effort that got them back into the game. So State has to play their own game, making sure that they kind of take their own shots. There's a couple times against Kentucky that Mississippi State looked around and guys who do not shoot threes were left open, and they thought, well, because Kentucky's making all these threes, we got to take them. And of course, they missed them. And if they get into that situation with Auburn, State's in trouble. But if they can make sure that that they play their own type of game and their own style, Mississippi State has an opportunity to win. Austin, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, just bouncing off that, I mean, our 2 losses, it was against Butler and obviously against Kentucky, and in both of those games, we were just taking just low percentage shots. A lot of shots we could find a better shot, but we were just throwing them up. I mean, again, maybe it was because the other team were making threes and scoring, and we were just trying to come back fast. But we have to take, higher percentage shots and be way more patient than just throwing threes up. I don't know, like if y'all watched the Kentucky game in that second half, we were just throwing threes up at the end of the game. And I was like, come on, like we're rushing the offense way too much. We got to slow down and find a better shot. So I think that's going to be big for us.
Well, I asked y'all that because I feel like with Johni out, Chaney will probably be inserted into the lineup, and I figured Mississippi State would try to play some sort of bully ball and go inside and get a Jaheim Hudson on the court, and try to get Chaney in foul trouble or Dylan in foul trouble early, and kind of get one of them off the court to limit Auburn's offense. So it was interesting to hear that answer. I think it's going to be a hell of a game, y'all. I really do. I think these are 2 really, really good basketball teams. But Dustin, you want to kick over to the live chat, man?
Yeah, guys. First off, don't get mad at me. Like, full disclosure, I pull for y'all every Egg Bowl, but I got
facts.
He got
facts.
He got.
Yeah, we got a little trash talk.
I know. I'm not saying this, but
that's okay, man. Hey, listen, Ole Miss also, man, they got themselves a coach, and they're having a good season in basketball as well. I think there's seven teams in the SEC that percentage-wise are in the 99 percentile to make the tournament. Ole Miss is the lowest of those 90s, but they're like 99.2 as opposed to some of the other ones. So they got a good team.
Well, look, can I fit this one in here real quick, Dustin?
Yes,
Y'all, yeah. Let me tell you something about Ole Miss, y'all. We don't get down with Ole Miss, okay? We don't do Ole Miss. We don't do Ole Miss football, and we dang sure don't do Ole Miss basketball, okay? That's a program that likes to boast and beat their chest, and they've never done anything. All right, so lock in with me right there. You guys have been to the SEC championship in football more than they have, but they're going to sit here and tell everybody that this is their best team they've ever had, and they're still going to find a way to lose to Kentucky in Vaught Hemingway, and Jackson Dart is going to Kleenex it up on the sideline and then go right back out there and throw another pick in Gainesville. All right, so I can't say those two words. All right, and I just can't roll with those hideous designed helmets when they do the real tree. Those are awful. They are awful. But I'm off my Ole Miss soapbox.
I feel like you guys would really get along with our listeners. I feel like you guys would have a lot in common.
Yeah, I love it. If you could just talk 10 more minutes about what you were just saying, that would be fantastic.
Guess what? I'll turn it to this. Duty Noble is the best college baseball atmosphere in the United States of America, and I will go to bat for that place. That left field lounge, I mean, that is the most electrifying place I've ever been in my life, man. Tanner Allen from Mobile, Alabama, down here where I'm from, boys, Mississippi State legend there, and that baseball program's special. So yeah, I'm definitely Egg Bowl. It's Mississippi State. Anytime those two teams match up, yeah, you'll never hear me say anything good about them dudes up in Oxford.
And,
That's all. And I'm glad. I mean, you feel really passionate about this. I mean, I'm sorry I cut you off, Dustin, but you feel really passionate when somebody talks about the real tree. You know, we wear mossy oak here in Starkville, but yeah, people talk about the real tree all the time. Those helmets are they're so goofy to me. I don't know.
Well, Dustin, why are we so passionate about it? You know, like they started like clowning us.
Yeah, they started
about the Lane Kiffin thing, and I mean, we absolutely dominate you. What is it?
Flanagan didn't help.
Yeah, and I mean, we showed that. I mean, that got cleaned up.
Just a lot of stuff kind of went into where it's at.
Yeah, and like, yes, they took Quinshon Judkins and right out from underneath us and all that stuff. Yeah, that was Brian Harsin. But then he didn't even love them like that. He said, "Hey, I'm in a natty at Ohio State." But there was just a lot of stuff that piled onto it.
Regarding Lane Kiffin, though, you know, we'll see how things turn out. But I'd give you this: if there's any smoke to Sarkisian in the NFL, man, I don't see how Texas would not give Kiffin a call, and I don't see how Kiffin would not at least entertain a call from Texas. There's just a couple places that you just take the call no matter what. Texas is one of them. So I'll leave it there. We'll see how things go, but that's a possibility.
Very interesting point, Landon. Very interesting point. We'll have to circle back and have a football conversation with you guys soon, because I'll say this: I hate this, and Blake knows this. I bitched about it to high heaven. Auburn not playing Mississippi State in football for 2 years.
Yeah,
is awful. We don't play Ole Miss or LSU for 2 years either, and I'm sitting here thinking Auburn's not playing a team from the state of Louisiana or Mississippi for 2 full seasons.
It's weird.
Like, it's really goofy, dude. And then I got to play Missouri and Oklahoma and A&M and be fired up like that's a real SEC game. It's like, okay, man. I'm over here playing Texas, thinking to myself the other night, we already started conference play. Yeah, I guess they're
I think
in the club now.
I think God showed us all during the 3-2 game that we were meant to play each other forever. It's just an odd game. We have to play.
Beauty. What a beauty.
Oh man. And hey,
it's a masterpiece.
The Cam Newton stuff.
Oh yeah, exactly. There's been a lot of stuff. I mean, it's been a great rivalry. I mean, like the Cadillac Williams game where Mississippi State was like favored to win by a lot of points. I mean, that was like Will Rogers, Mike Leach. I mean, that was Mike Leach's last year. We went into first or second overtime with y'all when when y'all were not expected to do anything, but Cadillac Williams had those boys ready to play. And that was a crazy game. I watched it actually at Landon's house, and that was a wild game. There's been a lot of wild games. Obviously, the 28-3 game. And I mean, like in the 2010s, y'all whooped us out with Cam Newton. It's been a great rivalry, honestly.
Yeah, it's been fun, fellas.
Got this question from the chat, Blake. Michael wanted to know, what is one position matchup where y'all think that Mississippi State is going to hold the upper hand tomorrow evening?
Yeah, I think it's got to be the forward with Broome out. Cam Matthews played so well. He played a long time though. You got to wonder how much of his tank is still full. Played 36 minutes of the 40, but that's just a position with Broome being out naturally that there's an advantage Mississippi State. But because of so much of the offense being predicated going through Cam Matthews, I think that's kind of the main one that you can point to. But here's the thing though: if Auburn can figure out a way to put someone in. Someone who doesn't mind getting a couple fouls themselves just to be physical with Cam Matthews, and the pressure's put on Josh Hubbard. Since he has not been playing well, State might be in trouble at that point. So there's a lot of different ways Bruce Pearl might attack this. I'm interested in seeing what he ends up doing. What do you think, Austin?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I'm right there 100%. I think Cam Matthews, if he can like him, he had 19 against Kentucky. Usually he does not have near that much, but if he can score and take advantage of Broome being out, I think that would be massive for the Bulldogs to win.
That's all I got out the chat, Blake.
There we go. Well, guys, hey, I need some before we let you out of here. I need 2 score predictions from both of you. I need to hear what you guys think about your Mississippi State Bulldogs coming to the jungle tomorrow night. What do we got?
Austin, I'm gonna let you start that out, man. So I'm gonna be thinking about it.
Yeah, no, I haven't thought about that either. I mean, if I had to pick, I think Broome being out is I don't know what Auburn looks like without that. And Kanye Clary's not there for us, but he hasn't been massive for us. So I don't think that's a huge loss. I mean, I'm picking the Bulldogs. I know it sounds wild to say. I'm picking the Bulldogs just because I think with Broome playing, I think that y'all would win. I don't think I would second guess that. But I think it's just going to be different, very different for I'm gonna say 86-82 Bulldogs. That's what I'm gonna say.
I'll go a little bit less than that. I think Mississippi State wins tomorrow, but I think it's because of Chris Jans, and I'll explain that just a little further. I think Auburn's team, in terms of depth and talent, it's top 3 nationwide. They're so good. Without Broome, obviously that's a problem. But I think Chris Jans, especially talking to him in the post-game press conference, made it clear that he does not want his team to play to the other team's tempo. And there's a couple of times when Josh Hubbard would throw up shots trying to look like the Kentucky players that Jans would just kind of stare him down going into a timeout and then light him up and start the cursing carousel, if you will. And so I think State's going to be a little more disciplined, and that's really the main reason why State wins tomorrow. But I would not be shocked at all if Bruce Pearl cooks something up to neutralize Cam Matthews. Again, get somebody else to be physical who doesn't mind getting a couple fouls themselves, and then try to isolate Josh Hubbard. And then State's going to have to look for a 3rd and 4th option. And I just don't know if the Bulldogs can do that. There's other teams in the SEC and other teams that State plays that is not used to the physicality, but Auburn is a different story. So I'm going to say State wins this game because Broome is out. And I'm going to go 69-73 Mississippi State. I think it's going to be a good and close game. Either way, it's going to be must-watch TV. So whatever side you're on, you got to watch this game.
Yeah, and I think it could go either way. I feel confident that if you told me that Auburn wins by 7 or 8 points, I would 100% believe you. It's gonna be a heck of a game.
Hey, fellas, I think me and Dustin are both right there with you. I mean, I think this thing is a toss up. I think it could go either way. With Johni being out, I don't know what Auburn is going to show up. Dustin, how do you feel about it?
I'm not comfortable making a prediction because I just have a
Yeah.
lot of questions. Like we always compliment Auburn for playing 10, 11 guys deep and everybody's willing to share the ball and all that kind of stuff. So what happens when some more minutes open up? And I'm not sitting here saying that Auburn's a better team throughout a whole season without Johni Broome. But what if for a night, like it opens up some space for Chaney Johnson and he lights it up? You know what I'm saying? So like I got to see Auburn. And I think that like going back to the airplane incident, going back to being down 16 points to Iowa State, there's a lot of examples of Auburn digging deep and finding something. Like we've talked about this Auburn team the year previous, great team, but every win was a blowout. This Auburn team has shown us time and time again, they'll dig deep and win a dogfight. So my question is going to be, well, one, if Auburn's in that kind of matchup at home, which we all think it'll be a close game, I kind of got to roll with Auburn in Neville in a close game. Like, but also I just want to see if maybe, man, some more minutes for these other guys opens them up. If the floor opens up a little bit more for CBM and those shots that were going to Johni, what if CBM's able to go off for 25? Like, so, but I'm not, but also what if Auburn just gets pounded in the paint in the absence of Johni, plays on the rebound, plays on the boards, plays on the defensive end of the side of the court, guarding the paint. I mean, we saw Auburn got abused at times the other night in the paint once Johni went out. So versus South Carolina team that we thought we were going to dog walk, and they quickly showed us, like, without Johni, we will dominate you down here. And hell, they were getting us with Johni in there. He was having his worst game. So I just have a lot of questions. I'm not comfortable putting in a prediction because I don't know what Auburn's going to look like. And Mississippi State's a very well-coached team. It's going to be a very intriguing matchup.
I'm with you, Dustin. I think it's just I think it's a coin flip. I think this thing could go either way, y'all. And I can tell you this: they're two well-coached basketball teams, and they're two basketball programs that are just soaring right now. And like we said before we got on here, thank goodness for basketball because it takes the pain away from football right now. But hey, we appreciate both of you. Once again, shout out where if anybody in here wants to listen to some Mississippi State podcasts, some content, shout your show out. Landon and Austin, we appreciate y'all, man.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having us. Yeah, it's called My Dogs Are Barking or My Dogs Pod. We're on the MPW Digital Network in Mississippi. You can find us on YouTube and all the places that you can stream. Were you saying something, Blake?
So Tyler Siskey.
Yeah. Old Cisco.
Yeah,
that's right, man. That's right. Some Ole Miss fellas. They wouldn't say objectively, but
yeah,
they're associated. Yeah, they were kind enough in October or September. Neil and I started talking, and they brought us on to be the Mississippi State show on their network, which is very kind. But you can imagine the audience is very different to start with compared to what we are. But they've been very, very gracious to us. So very thankful to be over there. And every Monday and Thursday is whenever we typically have our show in football season. We try to add a third one in there. Austin, anything else?
Yeah, I mean, just look up MPW Digital on YouTube, and that's how you find us. But yeah, thank y'all so much for having us on. This has been a great time.
Hey, we appreciate y'all, fellas, and y'all have a great night. And I'm sure we'll talk a little tomorrow night while the game's going on. All right, fellas, y'all be good.
Better boys.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Dustin, you want to hop in here and talk about the Auburn Tigers becoming the #1 team in the country?
Yeah, man. Second time. I'm going to be honest with you, Blake. Auburn #1 today. We kind of saw it coming. With the way things played out this weekend, right? Tennessee gets smacked. Auburn handles their business, wins both games last week. So we all knew that Auburn was going to be #1 today. I was just kind of interested to see if maybe some people held out because, like now you don't have your best player, that kind of thing. But we earned it. And I guess the thing that really stood out to me, Blake, and it's really just a testament to Bruce Pearl, please don't take this as a negative, is I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care because it was cool the first time. It was cool when we did it, and it was fun, and I loved it. And I'm happy that we're playing such good basketball that we're the #1 team in the country. But I remember last year there was a little bit of a back and forth about how important the SEC championship was. and you would make you were on the point of like, it doesn't mean nothing if you go around and lose the next week to Yale, right?
I got dragged for that.
Right. You did. Well, Dylan Carwell said this today. This is per Nathan King. Being number one is cool. It doesn't change who we are. You can't hang a banner for being number one. I just sense a little bit of a different mentality on this year's team.
Yep.
It's that Kobe Bryant job's not finished. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not too worried about this. So
Yeah.
It's great. I love it. Proud of the boys. Proud of the team. All that kind of stuff. I want to see how we play tomorrow without Johni Broome. And I'm excited. It sucks. Like, obviously, I didn't want Johni to get hurt, and we hope that he's back. I'm hoping personally that it's 2-3 weeks, no later than a month. We can get him back, get some games under his feet, maybe, late SEC action, and then get into the SEC tournament and get him to play some quality minutes and ease back into it. But it happened. There's nothing we can do about it. So I'm excited to see these other guys that are now going to get shots and how they handle it and how they handle their opportunities and who steps up. So, and I just think that from everything, like I was saying a minute ago, from everything I've seen from this group, their mentality, it's just different than some of the mentality I've seen on even previous Auburn basketball teams and just Auburn sports in general. Like this team is cutthroat, man. They're going for the kill. And I think that this bunch is probably practicing today. And we've seen enough clips of Bruce Pearl to know how he coaches and know how he motivates. I bet he's saying, hey, number one team, but everybody's expecting y'all to fall right off without Johni. Y'all are not no good without the National Player of the Year. Gas them up, Bruce. Gas them up. And I bet they're going to be motivated as hell to come out tomorrow to prove that we can still beat a good team without our best player.
Yeah. I said it last night. I just feel like Auburn basketball being number one. Is there bigger things that need to be accomplished? Yes. Being number one is special for Auburn because we aren't a Duke. We aren't Kentucky. We aren't UCLA, North Carolina, Kansas, Villanova. We aren't those schools. We're not the blue blood. We were a program that didn't have hope. I know there was times where Auburn had great teams. I get that. Chris Porter and all that, and Chuck, and we can keep going down the list of I don't want to say one guy's name because he brought a lot of bad to Auburn, but there were times where Auburn had special players and special teams and all that. But now being number one, it's special because we've been consistent now for 10 years. We have been consistent. And Bruce, I know that the wins weren't eye-popping, but he was consistent even when Auburn was losing of, hey, this is the product that you're going to get, and this is what the future looks like. And he brought it from nothing, absolutely nothing, to something. And it has been a journey. And like I said, to have a Jabari Smith come in, to have a Final Four run, to have an Isaac Okoro drafted, a Chumo Kiki drafted, all of these players, and Johni Broome transfers into your program, and he takes Auburn by storm, develops into this monster where he's sitting right next to Cooper Flagg for the John Wooden Award, which is the Heisman of college basketball. It's the best player in college basketball. Now, obviously, I feel like the media is a little slighted. I feel like, they're going to look Cooper Flagg's way because he's going to be the consensus number one overall pick and all that. And it's Duke. Yeah, they're going to get the boost in basketball. No hate against our 5 Point Play podcast brothers, but it's Duke and Auburn. So there's that. But Bruce just doing what he's done for this program, It's incredible. It's one of the better coaching jobs that I've seen in my lifetime. And I'm not saying that just because I'm an Auburn fan and I'm a homer. Yes, I look through blue and orange lenses every single day. But Auburn basketball was nothing. Nothing. I mean, it was no hope. And now you've taken the world by storm. And you're going to the tournament every year. And you're playing in big time games. You're going to Cameron Indoor, man. You're like, there's so much stuff that comes with this. But at the end of the day, I am tired of it ending in the first or second round. I'm sick of not making it past the first weekend, y'all. I want to get back to having that feeling of that Final Four run where Malik Dunbar pins somebody off the glass and you just get chills saying, man, we're about to do this. Like, this is really about to happen. I want to get back to that because now it's expected at Auburn. Everything is heartbreak. And like Dustin mentioned, I got trashed last year. I had people messaging me saying, we're no longer listening to the Up-Tempo podcast because you want to make a dumbass take about winning the SEC tournament championship didn't matter. Y'all, I'm sorry, but in my opinion, it didn't because we lost to Yale a week later. And you basically just poured water all over the fire and said, hey, man, Yale, that's it. So now it's expected. It is, you can't go to March this year and lay another egg.
No.
While Nate Oates and that program just went to the Final Four. There's things that come with this, y'all. There's things that come with this. You have to go make it happen this year. And I'm not saying you have to win the national championship because I know it's extremely hard to do. But, boy, you got to make the Elite Eight. You got to make the Elite Eight. I mean, that's a must. As good as this team is and as much time as you've spent at number 2 and number 5, and you started the season at number 11, so people believed in you even before the year started. Go get it done, finish the job, and I want that number 1 seed. I know everybody loves number 1 in the AP. I want the number 1 seed. And it doesn't have to be the number 1 overall. Just get me to a 1 seed and get me the easier road, man. That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, brother. Karen says, I'd rather finish number 1 for the season. That's right.
Yep.
I just want to be standing there holding the trophy, man. This basketball program at this point has done everything but that. And like Blake mentioned, it's extremely hard to do. You know, the NCAA tournament's crazy. It's called March Madness for a reason. You just try to survive it. But, man, there's no excuses for this team. This team is loaded top to bottom outside of injuries, hoping to get our guy back, hoping to, make a deep run and just kind of navigate this very, very treacherous road that is the SEC. So we're going to get out of here, guys. Enjoy the game tomorrow. We're going to be back later in the week with a very, very special episode that I'm excited about. It's going to be talking about some high school recruiting, kind of reviewing the portal class. We'll have a special guest coming on that knows recruiting game very well. Auburn got a new wide receiver 26 commit. Going to do the film breakdown on him for our members tomorrow. And Blake, I'm telling you, here's what I think happened. I'm not going to get off on this whole thing tonight, but just think about this. Think about this, you guys out there watching, coming into our next episode, because I'm going to really speak on it. What happened was Hugh knew he had to load up on wide receivers his first year coming in. We all knew how bad it was, so you get the freeze 4. You can't necessarily stack the 25 class then full of wide receivers because you don't want to run guys off, and there's eligibility. You got to kind of stagger it, right? This 26 class, we got 2 freaking dogs, 2 elite dogs committed at wide receiver, and I think you're going to see another freeze 4 scenario. So I'm excited to get into this later in the week and talk some high school football recruiting, man, and some Auburn football. So smash that thumbs up, share this thing out on social media. Chris, I know you already have, brother, and War Damn Eagle, man. We'll see y'all next time.
War Damn, baby.